welcome to our LinkedIn Live event. The topic that we're going to talk about today is the transition from IT service provider to strategic solution partner. So my name is Kishore. I'm the CEO and VP of Digital Solutions here at Pronix. So I'll be your host for today. So we're going to get insightful panel discussion started with the gentlemen that we have on this event. So we have these industry experts, who have already navigated or have been navigating through pivotal transition. So transforming their organizations from traditional IT service providers to innovative and strategic partners, working along the lines with the clients. So with me I have Bala Sundar. He's from Lateral Insights. So I will let them introduce as well.
My name is Manishh. I'm part of IBM Consulting. As an organization, we have evolved ourselves in line with the discussion that we will be having. So I am responsible for data and analytics as a part of IBM, and more recently around Gen AI and its offering. Happy to be a part of this call, and as we move along, I will learn as well as share my insights around the topic.
Thank you, Manishh. Bala?
Hi, I'm Bala Sundar. I live in Virginia. I used to have a company called SciApps, which I started and built it for 16 years, sold it in 2019. And after the 3-year transition, I'm back into the business of consulting services. There was an interesting topic that you had for today, pivoting from being a staff aug to a strategic solutions partner, which a lot of companies struggle with. Hopefully I can share what insights I have, and looking forward for the conversation.
Thank you, Bala. Rajat?
Hey, thanks, Kishore. Great to be here. And hello, everyone. My name is Rajat Sharma. I'm based out of Princeton in New Jersey. I am the Chief Growth Officer for Zensar. So what it means is the whole sales and marketing is my portfolio. Plus, of course, I also lead the platform business, which runs across all the 3 core hyperscalers. I have been in the industry for more than 3 decades, and I can probably summarize my career in 3 by 3 by 3. I've worked in 3 core industry verticals: banking, financial services, insurance. I've worked in healthcare, life sciences, and communication, media, and tech. I've worked in 3 core function areas. Of course, the P&L in terms of vertical responsibility, leading P&L roles. I've worked building practices, as well as the third is the delivery. And I've worked in 3 geographies. So I've worked in North America, of course, is one of the core. Second is Asia Pac. I worked extensively in Asia Pac, including Singapore, Malaysia, and Australia. I was the founding member for Pero Systems business in APAC. And then last, of course, I worked extensively in LATAM and Canada as well. Prior to Zensar, I was a partner at Deloitte and Accenture. And before that, I was a founding member of Cloud Practice at Cognizant.
So let's get started. So defining the transition, right? So the topic itself is the transition from IT service provider to a strategic partner, right? So let's set the stage for our discussion. So Manish, if we could start with you. So how do you define the transition from being an IT service provider to becoming a strategic solution partner? So what are the key factors that would actually you consider as a shift in the organization?
Well, I think any transition, for that matter, is not a straightforward process. The same thing applies for IT organizations who are trying to move from a traditional IT services organization into a strategic solutions partner. So definitely, transition is not a straightforward process. And there is not one definition that fits all in terms of how do you define it. However, I think there are certain areas that I would like to highlight that primarily are the key attributes for any organization who are trying to do this transition. I think to start with, it's absolutely important for an IT services organization to actually shift their focus from being a reactive organization to a proactive organization. Let's not look at every engagement as a one-off engagement. However, we are not, every engagement is not a transition, but we should move at looking at that engagement to build and mine customer stickiness as we move along. Secondly, I think while IT services organizations are focused on the customer, but I think to move to being a strategic partner, it's important to be absolutely customer-centric. That's number two. And number three, most of the services need to be aligned to the use cases and the needs of the business. So we need to be in a position to hear the challenges of the customer and work with them in a co-creation mode, rather than it being a one-way conversation of we providing our recommendations. So holistically, I would define this as some of the key attributes for organizations who are trying to move from A to B. For us as an organization, I think some of the key factors that have influenced this transition, and it's an ongoing journey, it's a maturity that organizations need to go through, is that yes, the focus has increased to being more customer-centric. There's a lot of focus that we are putting in to build a very robust and a deep down partner ecosystem. You are as good as your partners, just like leaders are as good as their team. So I think in the need to do this transition, you need to have a good, robust partner ecosystem. Number three is that for us and for the larger ecosystem in terms of either the partners or the customers, it's the nature of business is evolving in a way that we need to focus on emerging technology and how those emerging technologies would have influence in the businesses of the customer. So I think for us as an organization, focusing on emerging technology, specifically on the cloud part, on the automation part, on the AI part, and now more around the Gen AI part, is another factor that we need to consider. And last but not the least, we are in a situation where everything needs to be agile. However, it needs to be aligned to the customer needs. So an organization's ability to build center of excellences that are not just industry focused, but they are also use case focused from a end customer standpoint is an area or an important key factor to consider. So for us as an organization, we are increasing our focus on really building or deepening our investments on center of excellences, and also thus building assets and accelerators which can actually add to the reusability and agility when it comes to the end.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Manishh. So it's really fascinating to hear, how the shift is characterized in different organizations. So Bala, anything you want to add from your perspective?
See, as a strategic partner, right? So you are someone who is part of their goals and vision, right? So you are someone who's going to contribute significant value to the client's vision and the goal. As a staff org, you just provide resource. You don't care about more than that, right? So this goes a little bit more deeper. And that is going to happen if you establish mutual trust, very critical. And there is a shared risk that you as well as the client are going to take. And there's a shared responsibility to deliver the project, right? So it becomes very significant for you to have the stakeholder buy-in, someone who's there, who would bat for you from the client end, right? And you having the capability to deliver, right? So you deliver what you promise, and the most important thing that I've seen is to be able to say no when you have to say no, right? and
Right.
stay independent as a consulting services partner, and not take sides within the organization. You'll see multiple groups that kind of have their own projects that need to get executed, but you need to stay as an independent third-party vendor who can provide the client with full insights. I think that is critical. Once you know that you can meet these capabilities, then you have to look at your own inventory of what specific capabilities that you have that you can go to market with. Once you're there, then you're ready to kind of make the shift.
Yeah, so I mean, it's very interesting to see how different organizations will interpret, the transition, basically, as you said.
Yeah.
Right. So they have to be strategic as they have to be tactical as well, right? At the same time. And they have to solve the near time and long term, short term and long term objectives as well.
So what has helped
Rajat,
one of the client is we basically put together a 4-year roadmap for them to say this is how we'll start and this is how we'll progress in the next 3 to 4 years, which the client bought in, and we kind of made sure that we stick to the plan. Then you're contributing to a much larger goal and vision, and you need to be constantly aligned with their goals and vision on an annual basis as they make the shift. Yeah.
So that will address the both short-term goals as well as the long-term business goals. Sounds good. Okay, Rajat, anything you want to add?
No, I think Manishh and Bala has covered it pretty well. A couple of things I just want to touch upon, which are more of challenges, as you mentioned, of some of the IT service providers. So one is basically the whole mind share, right, of the clients become that you are just an IT service provider, and they start basically bucketizing you into that category, right? So how do we basically make the pivot from that category into becoming a strategic partner, right, is something which, of course, I've done several times in multiple number of companies. But one of the core area is basically, and that's why I was talking about 3x3x3, is that how do you go beyond technology? How do you start looking into the industry challenges, the business challenges of the client, right? And how much research you can do around the client persona as a not just individual personas. Of course, it comes from industry research to account research to persona research, right? And to Bala's point, that is where you uncover the whole goal and vision of that company, right? And how can you basically then build the proposition to help them move from point A to point B, right? In terms of target, or I would love to call it more future state, because it's ever evolving rather than a target state, right? So that's basically one thing which I wanted to highlight, because that's a practical challenge which we all go through and we all embrace. And as a part of marketing activity, I do that most of the times along with my research team out here. The second area is transitioning in terms of the construct of engagement, right? As we spoke about, most of the service provider engagements are more time and material basis or staff augmentation basis. So how can we move up the value chain from staff augmentation to a fixed price, a kind of project, right? Where we co-create and jointly define the scope of that project, right? And then how do we go from fixed price to an output-based or a transaction-based pricing? So if you want to basically run certain operations, how do we attach the operations into various transaction-based pricing, be it based on database instances, server instances, your storage capacity, and so on and so forth, right? And then finally, ultimate strategic thing happens when you go in the outcome-based, where I attach the business value and business drivers for the client to basically look into. Yeah. So those are the two things I wanted to highlight. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So Rajat, I think you already started this conversation while you were explaining. So there are obviously we encounter a lot of challenges. Every transition, I mean, as Manishh said, everything is a transition, right? So every transition will bring challenges. And so let's delve into these, challenges. And so Bala, maybe I will start with you. So what are the most significant challenges your organization especially faced during this transition from being a service provider to strategic partner, and how did you overcome them?
So when you are looking to shift to becoming a solutions provider, right? That's one major challenge. Most companies, when they send out their RFPs, they ask for three specific things. One is the revenue size, your past experience, and they ask for three client references where you delivered projects, right? Now, being a staff aug vendor at a few clients, then you want to make a shift, you don't have this pre-qualification. Sometimes you don't have projects delivered end to end. You've not taken on full responsibility. So what do you do at that point, right? And a lot of clients that we've seen, they provide these SOW type work to large organizations like IBM, Pricewaterhouse, because it's a one way to, it's more of a CYA, cover your ass when something goes wrong, but everything goes right, no issues. So you go in with an unknown brand, right? You have a challenge right now to kind of convince the client that you are someone that the client can trust, and they can extend that offer on a, what do you call, as a solutions provider. So for that, you need to have some sort of a predefined accelerator, at least developed, some unique methodology that you're going to use to deliver the project. So any sort of, what do you call, creative way of structuring the financial model in terms of pricing. That could be an onshore offshore model, right? Something that is more convincing for a client to say, this is something that I can take a chance. And above all, it takes time for you to build a relationship within the client and build the trust for them to say, okay, I'm going to take a chance and give you an SOW work, right? Sometimes you can quantify the staff aug work as a pre-qualification for you to go in and bid. But at the end of the day, you still have the challenge on a daily basis until someone takes a chance on you and gives you that opportunity to go and deliver. But once they give that, then it's your full responsibility to take full ownership and deliver the project successfully and build on it.
Okay. I mean, so overcoming those challenges is basically, indeed very commendable job, right? So
yeah, it is a challenge, but you have to keep trying, and you will definitely succeed.
Right. Okay. So Rajat, anything you want to add in terms of what challenges you must have gone through within Gensar or previous organizations during the transition phase?
Right. So I think Bala covered it from the, so I consider challenges on the both sides. So there are internal challenges and external challenges. So external challenges are more in terms of the requirements, what Bala was referring to, which comes from the outside to consider you as a reliable partner or reliable strategic partner, right?
Qualifications, yeah.
So I'll probably highlight more on internal since Bala covered the external ones. So internal challenges are equally important, right? And which are actually ignored to a large extent by a lot of IT service provider. So when I talk about internal challenge, I can give example. When I joined Cognizant, today it's like $18 to $20 billion firm. And when I joined, it was like 12 billion or so plus. And they had great capability in the application value management, right? So they were known for doing best of the breed services in terms of application development, maintenance, testing, and BPO services. But when it comes to the cloud services or the core infrastructure services, they were not basically considered, right? And one of the reasons was that we did not have the DNA built, right? When I say DNA built, is what we did is we built something called as G2 organization, Global Infrastructure Technology Outsourcing Organization. For building that, we required a lot of capability expertise around processes, around people, around tool stacks, right? And when I talk about the processes for sizing or solutioning these deals, right? Processes around transition, setting up transition and transformation office, right? Tooling to basically run these large strategic operations, right?
Right.
Tools to migrate, transform. So basically, one of the things which we ignore is in terms of, and of course, Manish spoke about the frameworks, the accelerators, the methodologies, right, which comes into play, right? So it's very, very important for internal readiness of service providers and invest into this. Unless we are ready to invest into this, it will become more of a catch-up game, and it's a conundrum we all go through. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Rajat. So, Manish, anything you want to add on top of?
Yeah, I think Bala and Rajat covered internal and external well, more or less. However, I think since your question was around what are the challenges that are being faced by the organization, I think for us, I would say challenges are faced on both sides by the organizations that we are aligned to, as well as our customers. More so with large enterprises that I represent. Uh, I think we know recently that our hardware business moved out from a larger organization just to focus on that bit, while the other part is purely focused on consulting with the aim to actually move from or to extend our reach from being a product organization on the hardware as well as on the software side to extending our reach beyond IT services organization into consulting, which is where it segues into becoming a strategic partner for our customers as well as within. So I think for a large organization like ours, uh, internal challenges have internal and external. I think I will combine both of them. The first one is basically resistance to change, right? It applies to anyone and everyone. Any new technology, any new shake-up in the process, any new acquisition, either the organization acquires or somebody acquires, right? Any of these challenges will come with a certain amount of resistance, right? So resistance to change has been one of the areas, internal as well as external. So, you know, employees are typically, if not all of them, a decent population is always resistant to change, which can actually make it difficult to implement some of the new processes and technology. Secondly, I think it's lack of expertise. Uh, for anybody to move from IT services to a strategic partner, it is not just the technical skills that need to evolve, which Bala and Rajat highlighted, but I think it is also the ability for a IT services organization to add that business acumen. That means to be able to have subject matter experts not on the tech stack, but even on the business stack, right? So that's the lack of expertise that might be there for IT services organization, right? To actually build upon. From a business side of things, from a client perspective, I think it's about having a brother in arm on the tech side with whom they can have a representation on their board, they can have a representation on their key engagements, so that there is a co-creation that happens between the IT service provider or the strategic partner as well as the customer. And lastly, it's about the associated costs and expense. See, any transition that happens from A to B will have an associated cost, right? So what we are talking about here is transitioning to a new way of working kind of model, right? If you have to build assets and accelerators, if you have to interlock with your businesses, if you have to co-create, there has to be a understanding wherein businesses are also willing to invest on a use case with IT services partner who can then become a strategic partner, and for the IT services also to be able to invest. So what we are talking about is co-creation by co-investing, both need to have an equal skin in the game. Okay, and that's also one of the challenges that need to be overcome, right? So
Understood.
an appetite to take early risks, investment, and have the right team mix is absolutely important. And these are some of the challenges that I can share that we have experienced from our organization and customer perspective. I think the way we are trying to overcome that, it's not that we've overcome it, but we are on that journey, uh, uh, is through proactively and continuously build capacity. Not just build capacity on the tech side of things, but also build capacity on the business side of things. And that requires investment from a reskilling and upskilling perspective. And that's an ongoing process, right? It's just like learning, it's just like emerging technology. The organizations, whether on the business or on the tech side, need to be reskilling and upskilling their employees on a regular basis. And then lastly, I think for us to build, Bala spoke about building trust with the uh, clients or the customer. I think for us to be able to build that, uh, there needs to be IT services organizations need to have this concept of building a SWAT team or a squad that can early engage with the customer on a long-term basis. And this might require thought leaders and experienced people on the team, not just from a project perspective, but also from an industry perspective. So
Got
holistically, I think these are some of the challenges that we have encountered and some of the steps that we are taking in the journey to overcome.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Manish. I think we have to have a lot of resilience to employ all of these, strategies so that, we don't, of course, challenges will come in every phase of the, as we execute, but we have to have a lot of, we have to learn these challenges and, build the resilience. So Rajat, so next one, so the technology integration, right? So the technology is the driving force, and we need to learn. We need to really integrate this technology into our, to become a strategic partner as well, right? Both for service provider as well as a strategic partner. So can you share some insights on how these the emerging technologies have been integrated into your strategic solutions and the impact that you have had on our services when you
Yeah,
integrate
absolutely.
these? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
absolutely, Kishore. Of course, technology is very close to my heart also. And as we mentioned, and we've started our discussion with IT services and how can we pivot into more of a strategic partner. Technology plays a very pivotal role. And of course, our tagline today at Zensar is experience-led domain-oriented engineering. And the engineering piece is basically the technology component, right? But of course, technology is not the only thing, right? As we spoke about the domain, the industry is very important. And why we talk about experience is because, of course, every program or every application or every operations needs to be consumed by someone, right? So how do we think from their experience point of view, be it internal customers, external customers, partners, or vendors, or so on and so forth, right? So coming back to your whole thing on how to enable the technology, right? Because it's a ocean. It's a huge ocean of so many new technologies being evolved, so many new technologies which are actually taking birth every month, right? Because of the kind of startup ecosystem we have, right? So just keeping abreast with the latest and greatest in the technology is very, very critical and important. However, one of the things which we should consider is in terms of not trying to boil the ocean, right? For smaller service providers, like at Zensar, we basically cut across because we have a scale, like we are 12,000 plus people, we are 600 million, and we have our own Zen labs, where we do a lot of incubation, right? And we were one of the first starters when Microsoft announced their partnership with OpenAI. So how we basically embraced and created our own engineering buddy using Copilot and the Gen AI concepts, right? Which reduces the cycle time for development of projects by almost 45 to 50%, right? From ideation to rollouts, right? But for smaller service providers, I would highly advise that don't go and boil the ocean, but define your playing field. And maybe a lot of service providers are basically like playing in this T&M world and placing the bodies based on whatever skill requirements comes to them. But I would suggest go ahead, do a segregation, take stock of your inventory of your resources, and do a classification in terms of what percentage of technologies are bulk of your business. Is it cloud? Is it ERP systems? Is it infrastructure services? Is it custom application development? Go and then build the muscle in that. So, and use that as a springboard to actually change the playing field rather than trying to boil the ocean with technologies. Because if you try to basically do across the board and go beyond, then you'll require lots and lots of investments. And second is you may not be very, very successful competing against the big boys.
Right. Okay, sounds good. So yeah, I mean, technologies adds very critical aspect of it. So Bala, anything you want to add in terms of building? Usually I have seen companies, even ours, so we build certain key technology enablers or solutions where we are really specialized in, and then we go after them to become a strategic partner. So it stops, as Rajat said, this very vast. You can't just swim around the ocean, but we have to
True.
pick a pond first to swim around. So Bala,
True.
your thoughts?
In a lot of cases, what we have seen is, I mean, you could come up with n number of technology and tools that you want to integrate as part of your project execution and how you want to deliver. But 80% of the case, the client already has a set of tools and technology that they want to stick with, right? If this is something which is going to be a game changer that you bring to the table, makes sense for you to propose something, right? Unless otherwise, they would not want you to come in and kind of mess up their process in the system that they already have. They would want you to work within the framework that they have, right?
Right.
A couple of things which we have always emphasized, which is added value and people respect you for what you bring to the table, is your DevSecOps, your DevOps pipeline, which is absolute must on any projects that we deliver, right? Any agile methodology, the way you capture the stories and how you build those stories, absolutely important. And some of the tool sets that you can define before when you start the project, may be your Microsoft project plan, your Jira, where you're going to capture all your issues, your Bitbucket, where you're going to have all your code tracking, code commit, and all those, or Atlassian Confluence for document repository. There are some basic set of tools and technology that need to be there as part of a project that you're executing that you could propose, but the client is going to kind of take that and come back and say, this is what is a framework that I want the team to work with, right?
Right.
Because it's not just your team who's comfortable with these tools and technology, the client team also have to be comfortable with, and they need to take ownership of this once you're done with your project, right? Every project you kind of take it and deliver, but they also have to take ownership on it. So as Rajat said, don't boil the ocean, but kind of play that in a way that the framework has the necessary tools and technology that will meet the purpose.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Bala. Anything you want to add, Manishh, in terms of integrating technologies to become a strategic partner?
Yeah, I think for us, technology integration has been really important, primarily because we are a product organization as well. We have our product offerings as well. However, we have a large partner ecosystem where we cooperate as well. And typically, if I put myself in the shoes of the customer, there is so much there, right? find almost every customer uses everything from a tech stack perspective, right?
Right.
Be it ERPs, be it CRM, be it AI, be it data services. I mean, you name the technology, it's always a heterogeneous environment. While we say that technology is helping optimize our processes, we are at a point in time wherein more of everything is actually the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So heterogeneous environment is a landscape issue from a tech perspective uh, that uh, businesses are facing, and even IT service providers are facing. While there is a greater adoption in terms of open source, uh, but the question or the exclamation mark always remains: open source still continues to be open, right? So at a certain point in time, who takes the ownership? And a lot of times we do realize that businesses are more willing to shake hands with a strategic partner if, number one, they can provide use cases and customer references with other customers who have integrated such emerging technologies in their particular industry. Okay. That is basically the deal breaker, right?
Right.
You will do well on the RFP response. You will match your pricing, but you need to have real use cases in that industry implemented at a customer place that you can provide as a reference, which will break the deal. Okay,
Right.
make or break, right? So for that to happen, for our organization, I will speak for the organization that I represent here. Uh, that's the largest customer base, right? We are about 1.5 lakh people spread across almost all the countries that you can uh, think of, and that's the largest customer base that we have, right? So technology integration on emerging technologies has been first, and it has been a part of the DNA that most of the emerging technologies or uh, the products that our organization has built upon, they have been first implemented across the various business processes and use cases that we have within our organization, right? There could be a finance vertical which is horizontal to all industries, right? There could be a HR division or a talent acquisition which is a part of HR, which is horizontal to all them, right? So for us, a technology integration on emerging technologies uh, is first implemented across various business processes within our organization, and that in turn becomes a good customer reference because we've got use cases that work, that can help us verticalize across a lot of departments, if you may. Just like I said, it could be finance, it could be HR, it could be marketing, right? So our ability to implement or integrate tech stack within our organization is a real differentiator for us when we are trying to position ourselves as a strategic partner with our existing customers or for new customers, because hey, you already have a large enterprise uh, which you can always consider to be a combination of smaller enterprises and use that as a reference to any of the existing any of our existing customers or new prospects that we are trying to. So I think that's where the technology integration has a very key role to play for the organization that I.
Got it. Got it.
That is, you're talking about IBM, Manish.
Yes.
That is large organization. So companies which are in the mid-size, I think you could develop solutions by industry, right? If you're looking at financial services, right? ML, AI, there's a lot of financial modeling type. You're going into manufacturing, key is your IoT, your industry 2.0. Those are the things that you could probably build some capabilities. And what do you call, solutions that you can go to market with. Healthcare data science is a big, from a technology standpoint. So you need to carve out specific area where you can specialize.
You're absolutely right, and that's where I did highlight that you're right that the organization is a large enterprise, but it's an enterprise with smaller organizations within.
True.
So depending upon what we are trying to pitch and to whom we are trying to pitch, there are instances wherein unique use cases that might have been applied to financial and accounting within this large enterprise might be a good pitch for us to be able to do in the form of solutions or frameworks or artifacts that might exist. But yes, that is an approach that we are trying to take. For enterprises. It is a wider pitch, but for smaller organizations, it could be a subset of that wider pitch, because we are able to verticalize it into various departments or many enterprises. But that's a good point. Thanks.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you, Bala. So let's switch the gears here, right? So so far, I think we talked about from service provider angle, right? How and what and challenges and how do you use technology as a piece to solve the puzzle, and so let's switch the gears, and then maybe I'll go with Rajat. So the client expectations and feedback, right? So for example, Bala has been into best of both worlds. When you announce to a known clients that, hey, suddenly overnight, I became a strategic partner. So far, I'm a service provider. Now I'm wearing a different hat. So how do they take it? So what are the how the client expectations have evolved or shifted, and how do you incorporate their feedback, right, as you are working with them into your evolving strategies and solutions to be in that place?
No, great question, Kishore. And that is something which actually happens very often, right? Because most of the service provider account teams are more focused towards fulfilling the requirements, right? Rather than acting as a consultative sales leaders or consultative solutions leaders, right? And the expectation from the client side is they want someone to hear them out, someone to basically correlate and help them uncover the problem statement, right? The challenge in today's world, and I'm a strong believer of we live in a VUCA world, right? There's so much of volatility and ambiguity in the world that even 70 to 80% of times when we meet a client want something because something from the business driver, like supply chain optimization is a basically very, very broad term, right? So they come with that specific broader term. So how do you narrow it down, right? What area of supply chain you need to optimize? Is it vendor management? Is it warehouse management? Is it least cost routing? What do you want to do, right? So you can only correlate to the client statement. One is if you bring the domain expertise, right, of that specific functional area, right, of that specific industry. Second is client will start taking the service provider seriously if we are abreast of what kind of technologies are prevalent and what technology can do what particular function or what they are best at doing. So it again correlates to our earlier point of technology future proofing. So how much have we done in terms of the future proofing of the technology world, right? How much do we know? Like cloud providers, both actually all three, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, they infuse close to $1 billion every month to create new functions, right? So how can we basically correlate and talk about those? SAP comes with a new version. Of course, now it's basically, again, moving into S4 HANA and so on and so forth. But again, they are basically doing a lot of acquisitions also, right? Like the Fiori and all other things which came in the past. And how much can we talk about with the client which is best suited or not best in class, but best suited for them, rather than always looking into the premium Lamborghini style of positioning, right? Because that is very, very important. And that's what the client want to hear and want to know. And the third thing is client will always take us seriously as a strategic partner if we show them value through business modeling, value through financial engineering, value through putting our skin in the game and making it
Right.
outcome based. The three
Got
things which most of the clients will expect. Yeah.
Okay. So, Bala, anything you want to add in terms of the
Yeah,
feedback that you hear?
No, I think Rajat touched it really nicely on how to align in terms of problem solving with the client, right? The key is I'm kind of going to keep the focus very narrow to say on a project. So you're taking on a project and the feedback that you receive, and then you're going to build on it. The key is to kind of define from the get-go what your terms and conditions are and what the scope is and what you're going to deliver, what the deliverables are, and stick to it, right? And one thing that we have done in the past, even in Lateral Insights, the new company that I have right now, we're kind of shifting gears based on the lessons that I've learned in the past to say, what are some other things that I'm going to stick to? One is we're never going to write SLAs or KPIs. It's going to be OKRs, right? Once you start focusing the client towards OKRs, now you're aligning what they're going to measure your success against their objectives, the project objectives, and what the key results are, right? There are a few things that you can do to kind of make sure the client is aligned with you from the get-go. So the feedback that comes back is, at the end of the day, the client needs to be happy with what they have signed you up for, and you delivered what they had asked for, right? And then, as Rajat said, if you are able to work with them in terms of solving their critical problems, then I think you both work together to kind of provide that solution and develop the solution upon it. And then you get continuous projects based on it.
Got it. Got it. Now I'll go to next question. So it's kind of in line. I mean, we already discussed this, I think, but how would we ensure that our technology solutions are not only advanced, but also directly aligned with the client's strategic objectives? Bala, maybe?
Sure. Now, so for you to align with what the client's objectives are, you need to know what the client objective is, right? First of all. And I can bet not many of these service providers have a client playbook prepared for each client. When I say a client playbook, be able to capture as much detail in terms of what their overall or annual project plans are, what is their overall goal, where are they moving towards, what is their customer base. In fact, when we started building those, the two clients that I kind of switched from Staffhawk to what do you call it, solutions provider, we built a playbook for each client where we knew exactly what their budget is, annual budget is, how much is being spent to our competitors versus how much is there out there for us to grab, right? What are some of the most critical projects which are key for their stakeholders as well as their board members? Like a lot of the intel that need to get captured in terms of what the client itself is, without which you cannot really propose in terms of aligning your solution to what the client's needs are. You're going to pitch a whole bunch of solutions which may not align with what the client needs are. So that is a fundamental work that need to happen. And then you define your GTM strategy, your go-to-market strategy for the particular client, right?
Yeah, that's very thoughtful. So 360-degree profile is what you're saying we need to build.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I'll just add one point to that. I think while that 360-degree profile is definitely required, and then I think Bala made a good point about having the playbook. A lot of customers are also wanting to know, what is my competition doing? Is there an overlap? Am I doing something different? Can I do something different? Or are they doing something different that I am not? Right? So to be able to add that element of intelligence and share it Well, obviously, you can add that intelligence based upon whatever insights you have in the public domain. You would rather not share competitive intelligence as in real intelligence, but whatever information is available, I think that element of it will probably ensure that the client that you are trying to build trust on as a strategic partner is sees you probably more aligned and the right person to take.
Yeah, you hit it on the nail. Understanding the industry and be able to say, I'm going to do financial services, manufacturing, and say healthcare. Right. These are the three markets that I'm going to be focusing on, build my capability around it, and go to market. Right. Then it makes your success easier, and for the client to trust you that these are the areas that you specialize in. Because the clients want you to see, I want to build a regular cookie cutter house versus a mansion. Two different skill sets.
Obviously.
Right. So my definition of what I want, I need a builder who understands my needs and who have done it in the past and be able to design and build based on the quality that I require. So similar applies to any service provider.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. So thank you for answering those two questions. I think we have few more minutes. We could just take maybe one more topic, and then we'll close it down because we're getting close to 1 hour. So maybe I'll start with Manish. So advice for others, companies, there are a lot of people I think joined here on this audiences. So who are aspiring to be, a strategic partner, as Bala said, not IBMs, right? So there are a lot of mom and shop companies like 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, 500 people. So they are still in the service provider stage, but they want to become strategic partner. So what advice you offer if somebody is transitioning to become a strategic partner?
Well, I'll keep it very pointed in the interest of time. I think firstly, it's important for them to understand the benefits of this new model we are talking about, or moving from IT to a strategic, and for them to be able to articulate it with the customer as well, that they need to be proactive, they need to be more customer-centric, they need to partner, right? Irrespective of whether the enterprise is large, mid-size, or small, you live in a world where you need to cooperate. You need to get into co-optation. You cannot compete, right? So building a large partner ecosystem is absolutely important, even for small to mid-size IT service providers who are trying to become strategic partners, right? So that's the third one. Fourth one, I think, need to focus on delivering customer value. Specifically with emerging technologies, any IT service provider can be looked at as a prospect to being a strategic partner if the focus is around articulating and demonstrating productivity gain, right? Be it internal or external, right? So that's another focus that IT service providers need to have. And lastly, I think it's all about being prepared yourself from the resistance that comes in with any transition that you want to make, right? And your ability to apply it to internal employees as well as make the business understand is absolutely important. So I think these are the 4 or 5 points. Again, ever growing with the business and technology, but these are the 4 or 5 points that can really help any IT services organization to at least move on that journey to become a strategic partner more rapidly.
Sounds good, Manish. Okay. Any last minute thoughts, advice, Bala?
And I would suggest looking at it as an IT solutions partner. If so, there is an investment required. Hire a strategic delivery executive, right? If you don't want to invest, say, $200,000 on hiring a delivery executive, hire a PM/engagement manager, right? 50% is billable on the client, and 50% he's responsible to make sure he builds relationship within the client and expand the client base. If you don't have that one point person who's responsible for the client, you're not going to grow that account.
Right. Okay. Rajat, any thoughts? Last minute
Yeah,
advice?
yeah, I'll keep it very quick. I know Bala spoke about the people aspect. So for me, it's process and technology. I think process from the mindset perspective. And I'll give you example, very, very simple example. When my sales guy as an IT service provider goes and gets a requirement, he needs to ask question, why do you need these skills? What program are you executing? Is it a product engineering program, or is it a application integration program, or a development program, right? So you have to extrapolate and abstract from there. So it's a mindset, it's a whole process of solutioning mindset rather than the services mindset, right? And the third is technology, as we spoke about in the last question also. We need to have playbooks defined. And these playbooks are not client-centric. Today, everyone needs cloud migration. Everyone needs operational optimization. Everyone needs cost takeouts. It is a very, very standard for every company. It needs to be created. And that's all.
Okay. Thank you so much, all.